Hi, I'm Manning,
And I'm Matt.
and welcome to our James Bond Retrospective, where we go through every single movie in the James Bond universe up until we get to the current present day, No Time to Die. We go through each, series of films for that respective actor. And last time, Matt, who did we talk about last time?
Last time we talked about the first and in some cases the best song, freaking Connery.
Yes, some will call him the greatest of all time, the GOAT, if you will, of James Bond. But this is another person that we're talking about today. Like we had our Sean Connery, he had seven films, right?
Let's see, Doctor No, From Russia with
All the
Love,
notes.
Goldfinger, uh, Thunderball, You Only Live Twice, Diamonds Are Forever. He had 6.
Six.
Yes,
Okay.
we know
Wow.
he has one unofficial that we did not
We
review.
don't count that.
Okay.
We don't count that. It's not part of the universe. It's the extra one, just like how the Casino Royale with David Niven is an extra one. I know we're gonna keep mention that once each time.
You will mention
Um,
that once.
I will mention that once each time, and you will roll your eyes or scoff at me each time without fail.
So
But there is a kind of a weird, if you look at the filmography, there is one particular entry that is kind of off on its own, but it's still in the universe. It's off on its own because only one person plays James Bond, and he never comes back again after that.
and it was also in between
Yes,
Connery's movies. That was the other thing,
strangely.
which has never since happened. Obviously, Bond actors change. We go from
Of course.
we go from Timothy Dalton to Pierce Brosnan to Daniel Craig, but we like after this there was never. It wasn't like, again, barring that one unofficial Bond movie. It was not like there's The Spy Who Loved Me, and then there's The Man with the Golden Gun starring Timothy Dalton, and then there's For Your Eyes Only back with Roger Moore. Like, they never did this
Yeah.
again. And yeah, of course, obviously we're talking about George Lazenby. And this
Yes.
is On Her Majesty's
Yes.
Secret Service. Uh
Say it one more
which
time.
On Her Majesty's Secret Service. Oh, look at that great quality poster.
Wow. I know, right? On Her Majesty's Secret Service, far up, far out, and far more. James Bond 007 is back. But
Man,
he's
look
not
at Tiffany. Is she or is she not wearing an outfit that's just suited for skiing there? Definitely her and
Don't you mean
Bond would not be
Tracy?
cold at all. What did I say,
You mean
Tiffany?
you said
I'm
Tiffany.
thinking
That's
about
the
Diamonds Are Forever
woman's.
because you had me
Yeah,
talking
it's
about Diamonds Are
Tracy.
Forever. 2T Bond girls.
One of them's
I'm
better.
silly. What?
One of them's better.
I don't disagree, and we will talk
Oh,
about
okay.
that
There
when
we
we
go.
talk about this movie.
Oh no! Oh no! Well, I'm curious now because I don't know what your opinion is actually going to be of this film. Because again, this is one of the ones that I've actually never seen until I saw it this past Sunday on Amazon Prime.
Yeah, I haven't
What?
seen this, which that we should say before we start, for those of you who do
Yes.
not know, right now, the
Oh yes.
entire James Bond collection from Dr. No to No Time to Die is on Amazon Prime. So
Beautiful.
if you do not own all these movies, like I don't, Manning doesn't, and if you want to follow along with us through this, now it's 5-month journey, Amazon Prime is helping you do that. We are not sponsored by Amazon Prime, but hey, Amazon, if you want to sponsor us, you should
I'm
really
not
be
sure I
putting your
want.
money elsewhere.
I was about to say I don't think I want Jeff Bezos to give his millions and billions to us when there's lots of other stuff you could probably do. Like I don't know, saving the planet. Thank you, Jeff. Call us, and we'll tell you to call someone else.
Yeah, but if you want to like pay me money to talk about your stuff, I'll do that too. You have a lot of money. You can sparse it out.
He can. He can do a lot with his money. He's the second richest person in the world. So come on.
Who's the first? Bill Gates?
Elon Musk.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't know why. I don't know how because
he bought Twitter.
Anyway,
whatever.
has that officially gone through? Anyway, I'm sorry. Yeah, this is not the Elon Musk business Jeff Bezos talk. On Her Majesty's Secret Service to me is a film that I had no expectations going into because obviously I don't really know George Lazenby. I've never seen him in anything else outside of this movie. And I mean, I know Diana Rigg. That's the one thing I knew going in. Oh, I know Diana Rigg. But other than that, this was a first for me personally.
I walked past George Lazenby at Comic-Con once, I believe.
That's cool.
I never really. See, this is the thing. So me remember if this is 20. 2016. We went to San Diego Comic-Con, and I swear to you, I didn't stop. We walked past someone signing, and I thought I saw like the sort of image of him and sort of the kilt sort of outfit on the table, and I went, "Is that George Lazenby?" But we were like in the middle of like a really big crowd, and if you know anything about comic conventions, in particular San Diego
Mhm.
Comic Con, when you're in a mob of people, it's like next to impossible to like break out of the mob and turn around. And considering the fact that, like I said, I haven't seen this movie in a long time, it wasn't like this was a movie, it's not like, he was a Bond where I'm like, if that was Timothy Dalton, I would have been like, we're turning around, but I was kind of like, oh, that's cool. And then that's
Mhm.
when we got stopped and I saw Jason Momoa and Nicole Kidman. And I screamed out Days of Thunder at Nicole Kidman. I don't think she heard me. Um, I
I don't
hope she
I'm not
did.
oh. Anyway, that tangent aside, On Her Majesty's Secret Service was made in 1969. It's 2 hours and 20 minutes, which I've discovered when I decided I'm gonna sit down and watch this. It is one of the longest ones, if I'm not mistaken,
Yeah, I
also the
discovered
James
that
Bond
as
franchise.
well. I honest to God, when I saw that, I thought this might be one of those like extended edition sort of, because so
Mm,
when I was sitting at work and I was like, oh, I need to watch this, I a lot of times I'll like use Siri and I'll like ask like the runtime of a movie. And Siri said, 2 hours, 20 minutes. And that's why I was like, because sometimes they default to like director's cuts or something. So I was like, that's probably a
yes.
director's cut. And then I went on Amazon and went, oh my
No,
God.
it's the real
And we'll
cut.
get to
Is
if
the
that
cut.
movie being one of the longest is worthwhile or not
Yes. We'll
at some
find
point.
out next
We'll find out.
time.
What do you mean this time?
So no, I don't know. Whatever. Also, fun fact: this was the first James Bond directorial effort by Peter R. Hunt. Fun fact before we get into it, who he had edited actually some of the Bond films before. So fun fact, this was his first time directing, and I think well, here we'll get into it for a second. I wanted to give a fun fact right
Well,
there.
there's also another fun fact about this movie. I
Tell
just
me.
want to make sure I get his name right. The second unit director is John Glenn, who would go on to direct all the Bond movies in the 80s.
Oh, you're right. Which is
For
funny
those of
because
you who do not know, this is the thing about directing Bond movies is you have to have worked on some capacity on previous films or you will not direct a Bond movie.
unless, like, I guess nowadays, because I don't think
Or
Sean Mendes,
you have to be
Sam
like in
Mendes.
the British sort of like like it's very like it's a close-knit group of directors that get to do this stuff. Like
Yeah,
you will not see like Christopher Nolan, I don't think is ever going to direct a Bond movie. Even though he's a
I don't
British
think he
director,
wants
but like
I don't think he
it's
wants
weird
to.
how they do, and particularly in this era, it was like you had to be working on Bond movies to even. That's why Steven Spielberg was like, I'm never going to be able to direct a Bond movie.
Yeah. I
But just
mean,
another fun
sorry,
fact that when I
Steven.
was watching the opening credits, I was like, "Oh wow, that's yeah." And speaking of the opening credits, entirely made up of previous Bond movie footage, which, to my knowledge, has never been done again.
It's like it's almost well, actually, you wanna get into our thoughts actually first about the film overall before we get into the details?
Yeah, sure.
Alright. I wanna hear what yours opinions are actually. Please, Matt, go
Okay,
ahead.
so the first act of this movie is pretty solid. The fourth wall joke, I laughed. I did, I did,
Yes, I love
but
it.
But the fast editing, the artificial fast editing, I went, is this gonna be in the rest of the
Yep.
movie? It was. But I was like, you know what? They intro Tracy and her father, who I thought were great, and I was like, okay, I'm really interested in this. And then we get to the second act, and I was like, what? Like what?
Yeah.
And I'm like, where's Tracy? Like, what? Then Tracy comes the fuck out of nowhere, and the movie picks up again. And that third act is incredible. But that second act drones so
Yes.
long. And so overall, I think the first act of this movie is pretty solid. The third act is fantastic. If the whole movie was like the third act, this would be one of my favorite James Bond movies. But the second act is so bad, and I will get hate from this, I'm sure, from Bond fans. But to compare, 'cause I I need to sort of say, I know we'll get into more details, but essentially the second act is Bond doing spy stuff. He's infiltrated into, you know,
Mm, yeah,
into
he's not a great spy.
into Blofeld. But here's the thing: to compare another spy franchise, the Jack Ryan series, if you were to compare Patriot Games to Honor Majesty Secret Service, there's that section of the movie in Patriot Games when Jack is trying to find Sean Bean. And they're doing the surveillance, and he's trying to find people to connect to Sean Bean so that they can go after him. That, and I can't speak for you, man. I know for me, I am engaged that
Mhm.
entire time, the whole time I'm in it. And the thing about that is a lot of that is Jack and the CIA in rooms looking at computers, looking at screens. Whereas here, this is James Bond in a big, lavish place with beautiful women, and I could be bored. I am so bored, and it's funny because it's like they're both doing the same thing. They're both doing espionage stuff. And you'd think on paper you would go, okay, the one that's going to keep you engaged is the one where he's wearing disguises and he's sleeping around with the
Yes.
women, and the other one is it's a dude in boardrooms looking at computers in a cubicle. And yet Patriot Games keeps my attention every time I watch that movie, whereas this, I was just like praying for it to end. And we'll get more into it in the movie, but ultimately for me, I think Honor Majesty Secret Service is such an uneven movie. I think George Lazenby was good, and we'll get into my thoughts on some of the other characters later on. Unless you want to talk about like Tracy now, I could do that after you
Which
give your thoughts.
I mean, I think I wanna go into that a little bit more.
Okay.
It's I actually really like On Her Majesty's Secret Service because it is very different from the other Sean Connery films in the fact that it's less, it's gonna sound strange, but there's less, like, gadgetry. There are gadgets, of course, but it's like it's not in the sense of, like, there is a little weird more it's kind of strangely grounded. I mean, obviously, the Angels of Death entire, like, allergy thing. Where is this allergy place? I have really bad allergies. Blofeld, can you help me out here, please?
Yeah, I was gonna say
Seriously?
me too.
I'm like, I need that. Perfect timing too, by the way. Perfect comedic timing at its
Oh,
finest.
all right,
Um,
yeah, I meant to do
but
that.
yeah, very good. But yeah, I think yeah, you're right. I think George Lazenby, I really liked, and I'm very very saddened that he only got one film because I would have loved to have seen him kind of take this version of James Bond forward into other films. One who has been a little more jaded because that last scene, well, I think it's kind of out of nowhere. And it doesn't really kind of I do feel like it was not paced well for that nice little kind of like surprise third act. The entire scene still wrecked me and is the first time I have ever cried in a James Bond movie because that is a
Wow.
very yes, it is thinking about it like him hold and spoilers, of course, him
Oh, we're
holding
we're just
Tracy.
gonna. Well, I love how
Yeah.
Manny at the start of this is like, let's not talk about the intro because we're gonna
I'm
get. Then he's like,
sorry.
let's just talk about the ending.
You know what?
No,
Yeah, you're
please
right.
go,
Well,
go,
no.
go.
No,
No,
you're
no,
right.
no. Do whatever you want.
I don't know. I'll just say the ending and then we get into the specifics. No spoilers just yet. I mean, if you're watching this, you've most likely
It's
have seen
it
it.
is one of the. It's funny because I was thinking about this when I was watching this. When this movie, what did you say? 69. You said
69, 69.
69. When this premiered, and again, I have no offhand, I'm pretty certain that was like that was like spoilers. That was like Goose dying in Top Gun or like Bruce Willis is a ghost of Sixth Sense. Like that was like I did not see that come. First, James Bond gets married, what? And then she gets shot and she's dead.
Yeah. Ugh.
Now it's one of the most famous like Bond things. Is Trace? I mean, it is something, and we'll talk about this. It gets referenced in later Bond movies. So it's definitely now a more famous thing, but I'm sure in '69 people were like, "Wait, what?" But
Yeah.
yeah, I didn't cry at it, but
I don't know. George Lazebny had a very effective of when he started to say, "We have all the time in the world," um, where he mentioned like she's just resting. His entire brokenness really kind of got me because I'm just thinking like, what if that was like my girlfriend that I was holding or something had happened, and it's like that
mm,
travesty that transpired of like you have all that you need in the world now. You have just put the past behind you, but the past that you created comes roaring back and takes the one thing that you love. There is something about that that feels so kind of mature. Like, not that the other James Bond films weren't mature, but there is
mm,
kind of something different and deeper in that one scene that I think Tracy also really adds. And I'll talk briefly about Tracy. I think Tracy is one of the top tier Bond girls that we have had. I think her introduction is kind of, let me rephrase that. I think her second introduction and why she's in the first place with her father Draco, that's kind of weird, and quickly they kind of fall in love. But like, I'm never I'm always like, "Oh, hey, it's Tracy." I think that Diana Rigg does a really good job of kind of making her this kind of good foil who's not automatically like, "Oh, I love James Bond," but someone who's kind of like, and I really do hate that I'm using this pussy galore, who is someone who gives him, ribs him a little bit, who's not exactly like, I'm going to listen to everything you say, someone who actually gets in. Like when she's driving that car during that entire segment in the end, that is a great car chase in the stock car racing area. That's a great, great car chase. And it's actually probably one of my favorite sequences in the movie, because you're
mhm.
right. Some of the editing is not great. It's like some of the fighting is very sped up and really cut choppily.
It's so
Um,
I and
it's really bad.
John Woo is guilty of the opposite to where he'll artificially slow down stuff and it kind of sucks. Here it's
Yeah.
like it's doing that thing to where they want to give the movie this type of energy that it doesn't have, and so it's like
Yeah.
artificial. And look, you can tell the difference between something that is artificially sped up and something that's actually sped up. Just watch the opening fight sequence of this movie and then put on the Phantom Menace duel, and you will see a difference between something that
Yes.
is artificially sped up and then actors who were really well trained and went that fast on screen. Like
Yeah,
the
I'm just imagining
difference.
them on set going like, and then
Um,
just speeding it up.
but to talk about Tracy, um,
Yes.
I agree. I think she is, and we talked about this when we did the Connery stuff. You know, Pussy Galore. I think Pussy Galore and Tracy. I think they are two Bond girls that stand up to today. I mean, she is, yeah, she gets introduced, as with her father and everything. But when she pops in that third act, I mean, she gets given the car chase in this movie. Like
Oh,
Bond
yeah.
doesn't, she does. And even when she gets captured, she doesn't become. She doesn't become this. To compare, I'm not. Have you ever seen Mortal Kombat, the movie from '95?
The, "Too bad you will die." That
No,
one?
that was Mortal Kombat Annihilation. It's
Oh,
the
never mind,
sequel.
then I haven't
Okay,
seen it.
so in Mortal Kombat, Sonya Blade is this badass, she's this CIA
Yeah.
or FBI agent, and
This isn't
everything.
the
She
new one, right?
she literally what? No, I'm talking
This
about
isn't
the
the
one
new
from
one.
1995.
Okay, I wanted to
No,
make sure.
this is yeah. Like I spoilers, she literally kills Kano by like breaking his neck with her legs. But then in the last act, she gets captured by Shang Tsung, and she goes from this badass fighter to just screaming and being a damsel in distress and needing to be saved by Liu Kang and Johnny Cage, and it sucks.
Of
Here,
course.
even when she's captured, she is giving shit to Blofeld. When the bombs start going off, she grabs that bottle, breaks it, and starts shanking dudes with it. It is awesome. Like it is so good. And
She is almost Oh, please, go ahead.
you believe why Bond would marry this girl. You're like, "No, this is the girl he would marry cuz
Yes.
she is to his level." And I appreciate that. And again, we're talking about this is 69. It, think about female leads in 1969. Like
Yeah.
they were not Tracy. It's incredible, and I think she, if again, like I said, when she randomly, there's not even an explanation of like, oh, like I always come skiing here or something. No, she literally is just like, oh hey Tracy, fancy seeing you here when the plot could really use
Wow.
you to be here. But the movie picks up Yeah, I love Tracy so much. Uh, George Lazenby, he's solid. I think I think the thing about him is he just got the one. You know, he never got a chance
Yeah.
to grow. Even Dalton got 2 movies.
Yes.
Um, he's not my favorite. I prefer Connery far more.
Of
But he's
course.
not terrible. I just think it's funny that in a James Bond movie, the Bond girl I think outshines him so much for me.
And I was about to say I agree with that, but I think that I don't know. This is the because then we saw 6 movies with Sean Connery, and then
Yeah.
seeing this other interpretation, I do really, really, really like what he is doing. It's kind of like listen, it does feel like he's trying to emulate Connery. It doesn't feel like he's making it his
It's
own.
Connery light, but you get this
Yes,
feeling that maybe if they did a second one, he could've. I mean, look, there's so
yes,
many there's 2 very obvious references to the fact that he is a recast. Obviously, the first one is very
yes,
fourth wall breaking,
and
and
it's
I
so
did
funny.
chuckle at to where Tracy runs away from him and he just looks at the camera and goes, "This never happened to the other fella." And then there's I want to
Right.
make sure I'm getting the line right to where it's in the context of the scene. Obviously, he's not talking about that, but when he says, "I hope I can live up to your high standards," he's talking about the fact that he's not Sean Connery. Like, I feel
Oh,
like that is such
okay.
a reference to the fact that I feel like those are 2 references to the fact that, yes, he is not
Hmm,
Sean
I like that.
Connery, and he's fine. I just think Sean is so much better, and even we talked about I
Yeah.
like Diamonds Are Forever, so even seeing him come back, I was like, yeah, he's so much better. I have to say, Manning, it's funny hearing you say you like this movie so much because last episode, the lowdown non-tech Bond movie was one of your least favorite of Connery's, which was Dr. No. So it's
Yes.
funny that this low tech, you know, basic adventure movie you
And
love so much and you didn't like Dr. No. Whereas me, I love Dr. No in this movie. I think the third act is really good, but the rest of the movie fails to live up to it.
I will say I don't love it. I still think it has
Okay.
massive problems in the second act, which I agree with you completely there. The
Yeah.
moment Tracy is gone, it's kinda like, "Oh, okay."
It just
And then
loses
when
its
she's
luster.
immediately when yeah, because I could have cared less about the Angels of Death and that entire thing. It was
Can we
kinda
also
like
talk about
this
the fact that, like, we
weird.
never see those girls get out? Did they all die?
We don't know.
The last we
Oh,
see of them is he's
no.
just, like, taking pictures of, like, the files, but, like, we never see them escape. I think they're all dead. Like,
Um,
I think they're dead, man. Because they certainly
wow.
didn't make sure to be like, "And
James.
all the girls
Wow.
were saved."
Uh-huh.
Also, it's just like that entire sequence. I'm interrupting your point. I'll get back to it. Please finish your point about Doctor No and this, and then I'll
Oh,
make my
yeah, yeah,
point.
yeah. Uh, I I I think what this has above Doctor No in my mind is to me, I like Blofeld in this a lot more than I like Doctor No. This
Okay.
actually might be my favorite interpretation of Blofeld, mainly well, let me
Really?
rephrase that. Second favorite interpretation. I still
Who's your
think that,
first?
oh god, what's the guy
Donald
from
Pleasance?
Thank you, yes.
Yeah, Donald
Donald
Pleasance is
Pleasant,
still the best to me.
yes.
He's still the
But I
best.
like this one because, oh, what's the guy's name?
Telly
I hold
Savalas.
on. Thank you, Telly Savalas. I
Yeah, this
like
is
him
why
because
I'm here.
he thank you. This is why you can help me with the actors' names. I still think that while he's like he tries to do something different. He's not emulating Donald Pleasance. He's
Yeah.
doing his own thing of what Blofeld is, and he's like kind of this really imposing, intimidating character. That's not kind of like "Hello, Mr. Bond," but more like "I'm gonna kill you, Mr. Bond, if you get any closer to me."
Mm,
Kind of, it's a different presence that I think is really interesting, and less more. Of course, like he's the big bad guy, but I think
yeah.
also couple with that and a better Bond girl. I think this one kind of rises to the top. Plus, I think the third act is kind of awesome in this one.
See, that's the thing. I really Doctor No is one of my top 3 Bond
Oh yeah,
villains. So we talked. You can hear all my thoughts about that last week. So I think it's funny. I think you're right. I still think Donald Pleasant's better, and personally, when it comes to
of course.
Blofeld, I kind of prefer Morvie sits in the chair and has other people do his bidding, which is fine because I talked
I
about
agree.
when we did Doctor No. I like the fact that he was kind of that, but then he still gets the fisticuffs with Bond. But that Doctor No, Blofeld to me exists in a different category of Bond villains.
The
Because
big
obviously
bad.
he's the big bad who doesn't need to do anything. But Telly Savalas wasn't terrible.
He
He's
wasn't terrible,
he
Matt.
no, I'm just he probably is my second favorite as well, I would say, out of because the one we get in Diamonds Are Forever, I'm not too big on. And then From Russia with Love, I don't even really count because he's
Mm,
there, but he's not.
yeah,
It's like the Emperor in Empire. Like, yeah, he's there, but he's not
it
really a
doesn't. Yeah.
character in Empire. Where Donald Pleasance, I still think, is the best interpretation of that character.
Yeah.
Um, what's his name from the? I don't want to talk about the correct movies yet. Um,
Oh, Christoph Waltz. I think he's third for me personally.
Christoph Waltz. I
Christoph
just
Waltz.
think of
We'll we'll get to that a little
we'll
later.
get
My
into that
opinion
when
on
we get into
Christoph
that.
Waltz.
But yeah, talking about I don't even remember what point I was talking about before I let you finish your point on Doctor No.
Blofeld.
This is bad, kids. Because this is what attention deficit disorder looks like, children. Um, let's talk about. Let me go back to the
Please.
beginning with the title sequence. What did you think? This is
The title sequence.
again
Yeah.
like Doctor No. It is its own original theme, of course, but there is no lyrics to it. And it is
No, there
also
aren't.
made up entire it's like a greatest hits of Bond.
It is a greatest hits of Bond. I completely
Weird.
agree with you.
And I don't know why
So
they did that, honestly. I don't get it.
I don't get it either personally, and
Cuz
truthfully,
it
because we were on a
it's
roll for like an actual like Bond theme songs,
yeah, we're coming off of You Only Live Twice, which is probably not my favorite, but by this point it had already seemingly been established that the since GoldenEye, I keep doing that. Since Goldfinger,
It's all right.
it's like there is the opening title sequence, and that's where the song shines. And here it's just
Mhm.
like, well, we have an opening sequence, we have
Yeah.
a song, because even in the end credits, it's not like From Russia with Love where the song was saved for there. So it's interesting. But it's so weird considering the fact that obviously this is a recast of Sean Connery. It's so
Yeah.
weird that right off the bat, the movie like wants to remind you about the Connery movies. It's like for me, it's like
Yeah.
it,
I
for
agree.
me, I'm just like, okay, you had the joke already at the beginning, which is fine, but it's just like why would you want people thinking about Sean Connery in George Lazenby's movie? That would literally be like if the opening sequence of
Well,
Casino Royale was a greatest of Pierce Brosnan's moments. It's just like, yeah, but you got
yes.
a new Bond. Why are we reminded about this Bond that
I
came before him?
I was about to say, I think that the joke of this never happened to the other fellow is a nice tongue in cheek, like, okay, they're acknowledging the fact that he's different, but he's not the actual same person, or he is the same person, blah blah blah. I get that. You're right. The title of using the other films at the very beginning, I feel is like you're trying to do like a recap of everything, but it's a completely different story,
It's
different
just
actor.
unnecessary.
It doesn't
It's
work.
not even like it's not even really like it's important.
Yeah.
It's not even like they talk about Doctor No and Robert Shaw and all this stuff. It's not like they even talk about that. It's not even like You Only Live Twice is even like
Yeah.
referenced, about the events of that movie. So it's this weird because I could
Yeah.
understand if it was the type of thing to where all this stuff comes into play,
It doesn't.
but it doesn't. So it's just it almost feels as if like they didn't really have anything, and they were like, "Where we got all these other, where
I
we got all these other movies on file. We might as well just splice them together for the intro. Is everyone okay with that? All right?
I'm like, yes, yes, wonderful, wonderful. Yes,
Yes,
yes.
yes, yes. Good show.
Um,
Good show.
good show, jolly good.
Jolly good.
I
I'm just thinking of Hugh Grant now. Oh, yes, of course.
But
We'll do
yes,
that.
of course,
Very
of
well,
course.
very well,
Uh,
very well.
that is Hugh Grant. That's Hugh
Hugh
Grant.
Grant.
Hugh Grant.
Yes,
Hugh Grant.
yes, Hugh Grant.
Um.
Yes, yes, yes.
Anyway, I
Americans
Americans
impersonating the
trying.
Brits. Always good.
I'd love to see it.
We won the
Uh,
war.
oh, did we? I don't know. We did. Um,
I'm so sorry.
I think that maybe this is just me, but I feel like Connery's shadow still looms large over this film in the sense that that's why I think Lazenby was trying to be him. Two, they showed the thing at the beginning, and you kind of have 5 films. The 6th one hadn't happened yet, of course.
Yeah.
Diamonds comes later. But with these 5, the shadow still looms, and I don't think they really knew how to make that transition because obviously Lazenby never came back, and I don't know why. Um, do you know why he never came
I'm
back?
not sure of the reasons offhand. Again, as I established in the first one, I love the James Bond movies, but unlike Star Wars and like Back to the Future and Indiana Jones and stuff like that, James Bond is something to where I love the movies, but I've
Yeah,
never really been huge on like reading behind the scenes books and like watching all the documentaries. Like it's kind of been a series that is very much, and I think it's because I grew up with these movies until a couple years ago. I grew up with these movies mostly just on TV. Like it
yeah,
wasn't until I was in high school that I even owned any James Bond movies. So it was always just like when a Bond movie's on TV, I'll watch it, and that's great. I saw Skyfall in theaters and stuff like that. But like I think that's why I think I've just never even now and again, I love these movies, and I probably should considering I'm such a cinephile. But it's been something to where it's just like the movies
yeah.
exist, and I don't even think I've listened to like audio commentaries or anything like that,
Wow.
which is weird because I normally do that. But I think because Bond to me was so ingrained with like cable viewing, which is just like the movie's on, and then when
Cable
it's
viewing,
off,
okay.
you go and you do something else. But like, they never run a director's commentary on TV. The most you get is maybe those AMC story notes, where they have the
Yeah.
trivia popping up. I think that's
Yes.
why. So I don't know. The only thing I can think of is people wanted Connery back, and so they brought him back. And
Yeah.
you know what? George Lazenby is good, but like, dude, Connery is Connery. And I feel bad for George Lazenby. I really do, but like it's got, have you ever watched The Office? It's gonna be a weird comparison I'm
No.
about to make. You've never okay. So in season 3 of The Office, Jim dates a character called Karen Filippelli. And she's great for Jim, but he is in love with Pam. And as a lot of Office fans have said, they're like, Karen was a good match for Jim going up against his soulmate. I feel like that is Lazenby in this movie. I feel like Lazenby is a really solid Bond, but he's
Yeah,
going up against maybe the greatest of all time. And
I agree.
you don't compare to the greatest. Like, and particularly in that time when look, James Bond was Sean Connery. There were no other James Bonds. And so I feel bad for the guy, but like I'm also glad Connery came back because I like Diamonds Are Forever and I love him in that movie. But and this I think this could sort of lead into a question. Do you think, and this is a weird history thing, do you think after Diamonds Are Forever, should they have gone to Roger Moore or should they have revisited George Lazenby with Live and Let Die? Should that have been a
Yes.
George Lazenby film or the start of Roger Moore?
Honestly, Diamond should have been George Lazenby.
Okay.
In my mind. I think that should be George, bar none.
Okay.
Because I don't know how that would change the film, but like I think he needed another shot at doing this. And maybe that's because again, I don't think that would have changed anything for the movie. And maybe he should have come back again the following film. But I just wanted him another chance because you're right, he is in that shadow, and it's really hard to top something as massive as the original Bond.
And I
Or
think
someone as
also nowadays, with obviously the Bond films are not complete, but now, you know, you go from Connery to Lazenby, right back to Connery. So you kind of don't, he gets lost in the show, because at least when you go from Connery to Moore and Moore to Dalton, Dalton to Brosnan, blah, 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 there's no, Moore never comes back after, it switches to Dalton. Dalton never comes back after it switches to Brosnan. And as of right now, Brosnan didn't come back after Craig. So, and I don't think they
Nope.
plan on that. So he also just exists in this really weird, like, this almost just feels like, I don't even know what this movie just exists in such a weird space. Because
It really does.
I am someone who I am a firm believer in the Sean Connery to Pierce Brosnan are the same character. Like,
Yes,
Daniel
agree.
Craig is in his own series, and we'll talk about that when we get to that. But I am a firm believer, because there's so many references to previous movies in later movies. And how do we even miss this? When there is an entire scene that is just full of references when he pulls out the breathing
Oh, yes,
apparatus from
yes,
Thunderball, and he pulls out his I think it's his holster from Dr. No or something. You hear Honey Rider.
yes.
So again, I don't know why this movie wanted you to think of Sean Connery. I think that was a poor. It's almost it's funny. Again, I'm just referencing other series here, but it's kind of like, have you seen The Lost World, Jurassic Park?
Oh, yes, I have seen that.
There's a moment near the end of that movie when Vince Vaughn's Nick Van Owen is going to the communications sort of area to call for the helicopters. And he goes into the thing and he turns on the light and he looks, and there's this mural for Jurassic Park. And the John Williams plays the theme, and Steven Spielberg on the behind the scenes features, he talks about how, like, that moment is this sort of like, you're starting to feel sort of nostalgic and sentimental for the original while you're watching the sequel. And that's what that moment felt like. It was like, oh, now I'm just thinking about all these Bond movies.
Yeah.
I don't know what I really actually genuinely want to look into the behind the scenes of this movie now to see, like, why they kept doing that. And I feel bad for Lazenby. I have not seen it, but there's a documentary called Being James Bond. It's about George Lazenby. I haven't seen it.
Oh,
Have
wow.
you seen it, Manning? I'm going to
Oh, I
assume
didn't know this was
not.
the case. Oh, I might want to watch this now
Is it
because I'm
Being James
curious.
Bond? I want to make sure I don't get that wrong.
While you're thinking, while you're trying to find that, I will merely say that, and to end on this, is that, yeah, there are some kind of weird stuff at the middle with the entire Angels of Death sequence, which I'm kind of like, I could care less. But a lot of the highlights to me comes with the interaction with Tracy Bond or Tracy Bond, his wife, for all of 10 minutes, of which is probably the most tragic.
It's Becoming Bond. Being James Bond is a
Becoming
different
Bond.
documentary. Yeah.
Okay.
It's on Hulu.
Okay, I have that. Yeah, it's just like, it is probably one of the most tragic and very random. Again, I feel like it could have been done a little better a presentation, but or how we got there, excuse me.
Yeah.
But the scene in and of itself is incredibly beautiful, and I think truly just kind of sets in motion, I think, a side of Bond that we kind of don't see with the Connery, who seems invincible, who seems like he's got it all together. He is the man's man. George Lazenby tries to be that, but I think he does better when he has that moment of that vulnerability.
Humanity.
Yes.
Yeah.
Humanity. And I think that is what they should have gone with entirety. They should have tried to go as far away from the other ones as possible to truly distinguish and not try to have these little things back and forth about, this is what happened in the movie prior. Ooh, remember this one?
Yeah.
And I think it kind of makes this movie a little lesser. Also, the middle part makes it lesser too. But there is such, like, great bookends, as well as, like, just a wonderful, like, love story that is probably might be the best we get until Casino Royale, in my mind.
That's better than Casino Royale to me.
Oh, come on.
We'll
talk about that later.
We'll talk about that. It's not a real love story because she was never. We'll talk about that.
We'll talk about that later.
We'll talk about that in October. Yeah, for
Go
me,
on.
I think that whole wedding sequence is great. I think the moment of him tossing the hat to Moneypenny is
cute.
really, great because I talked about this how Moneypenny throughout the series always represents this thing that Bond really is never going to do, which is settle down, get married. And she kind of feels that. She's kind of like, oh, there goes, like, again, she knew Bond was never going to marry her, but it is this weird thing to sort of like know that, like, oh, okay, I guess everything between us was just, workplace flirtation. It was nothing more but that moment when he throws the hat to her and Q being completely unwise to it, I think is also great because he's like, "What are you doing?" She's like, "I always cry at weddings." Oh, the moment between M and Tracy's father had me cracking up to where he's just like, "Hey, didn't we try to stop you once? How'd you get away with that?" I thought that was a little funny banter between them.
That
But yeah,
was,
then the
that was.
moment it comes by so fast. Um, but it's really well done. And I think it's because, and the actress's name is escaping me, who played Tracy. Um, I think it's because she was so good at the role. And I think
Yeah,
she was so good that I
Diana
wanted
Rigg.
to see her, and so it is like, oh man, it is too fast. It's like really fast. And I get what they were going for. They
Yes.
were going for shock. Um, and of course there is that sort of, it's the Romeo and Juliet thing, to where it's like
Yep.
with Bond, if those kids didn't make the comment about them looking like an advert for a florist, Bond would have never stopped the car, and who knows what could have been. So
The
it's,
butterfly effect.
yeah. The butterfly effect. Car should be. No, I'm just thinking about Jurassic Park.
Oh, no.
Here I am.
Okay
Talking to
there,
myself. That's
Jeff.
unnecessary.
Mr.
Um,
Goldblum.
but
Dr.
so
Malcolm.
yeah, I like this movie, but I think, and this is where I also get some hate. I think there's a collection of Bond fans that love this movie because it's George Lazenby's one and only, and so he exists in this. Because I've talked to Bond fans before, like, this is the best Bond movie ever, and all this, and I'm just like, it's fine, but have you watched that second act? Like, that second act to me could have been cut down so much. To me, you cut down that second act so fast to where he breaks out of his room, he goes to the one chick's thing, they do all the tape stuff there, and then when he tries to leave, that's when he gets caught.
Yeah.
Instead of, he breaks out, goes back to his room. There's another chick in his room. Now we do the tape thing. Then he goes to break out of his
Yeah.
room again, and then he finally gets caught. It's like, why? Also, it's
Too
so weird
much.
to me because they've built up this relationship with Tracy in the first act that, like, and again, I
Yeah,
know
it
he's
feels kind
James
of like
Bond, but it's just like, why is he like
it's
stepping out on his
slimy.
girl so fast? Like,
It's
I know
real
he's James
slimy.
Bond, but like, come on, man. Even Connery when he was with Honey Rider wasn't like hitting on the other chicks in the compound, like he was kind of a one woman guy at that point. So what are you doing, man? Yeah, I think we sort of start wrapping up. Obviously, guys, this
Yeah.
we got the one, so we can't rank this. We can't rank
Nope.
his movies. We can't rank his themes. So this is the shortest.
Nope.
So my sort of wrap up thoughts on this movie are: I think it's a decent entry into the series. I think there are some choices editing. The sped up action scenes take me out of the movie.
Weird.
The second act falters for me. And again, it's Bond being a spy, which I love when he does that, but it's just non-engaging. Um
He's also not a great spy in these
he
segments, really.
you know, but I think the last act is really great. We should talk about the skiing sequence. I think is really
Oh,
well
yes.
done.
Another great one.
It's not the last time we'll have a skiing sequence in a James Bond movie.
Nope.
The bobsledding stuff I thought was interesting. And Tracy Bond is so damn good in this movie. I think it was so, nowadays it's funny just to sort of see, nowadays if they tried to do this, James Bond just got woke. Whereas in 1969, they're like, nah, Tracy's just a badass, and she's gonna have the car chase in this, not Bond. Uh, she's so. I said it earlier. She
Great.
just overshadows Bond, but she is one of my. it's hard to say because I love License to Kill's Bond girl, and she's usually my favorite. But like, man, Tracy's either she's number 2 or number 1 for me after rewatching this movie. Like, and obviously we have a bunch more movies to watch and
We
other
do.
films I haven't watched in a while. But for right now, I'll say Tracy is top 2 Bond girls for me.
I agree with that.
So yeah, so I think this movie's solid. I think if you haven't seen this, I think it's worth a watch. Don't skip it. It's worth a watch. Lazenby is solid, but he's doing some Connery stuff, obviously, but he has his own moments. Like man said, he has some humanity, but really honestly, watch this movie for Tracy. Like watch
Yes.
this movie for Tracy. And I think you'll enjoy it. Yeah, so that's all I have to say about that.
And for the third act, and watch it mainly for like the sense that this is George Lazenby's only like real claim to the James Bond like world, and I would
Yeah.
watch it for that to see how he does and see. Yeah, you can't really compare the one movie in comparison to the 6 that Sean Connery had. So it's
Yeah.
really unfair, I think, because he didn't get the chance to really dive into this character. And I would love to know, maybe I'll watch the documentary and see why he never had that chance afterwards. Maybe it was the fans clamoring, but overall, I really do like this film. Even though Bond is a horrible spy in this movie, he's not really a great spy. But his relationship with Tracy, his eventual wife for 10 minutes, I say that mainly because that's how quickly it felt and it hurt. But you know, I love the film. It's not the best, but I really do like it a lot.
Yeah, and
That's my
what did
final
you guys
thoughts.
think? Let us know in the comments. Where does this rank for you? Is this one of your favorite Bond movies? Is it one of your least favorites? Do you think do you think it was wrong to go back to Sean Connery? Should they have given Diamonds Are Forever to George Lazenby? What do you guys think? Where's George Lazenby rank for you? Let us all know in the comments. Keep the conversation going. So Manning, where can the good people find you on the interwebs?
Aha. Well, you can find me on the interwebs at Twitter at Cine_man. That's CINE_MANN, as well as Letterbox at Manning Franks, and as well as reviewing films for WFMY News 2. Find our YouTube as well as our Facebook and our I believe our actual website. Got to look at that and plug that.
And you guys, as always, can find me at Kearns_Matthew on Twitter, Matt Movie 611 Matt Movie 611 on YouTube, and right here as host of Second Look, the fandom podcast and co-host of Simple Tricks and Nonsense. And guys, this is gonna wrap up this episode of our George Lazenby era conversation for the 007 retrospective. Yes. Please like and share this video around, share it to the Bond fans, comment below, keep the conversation going. Like I said, if you have not checked out our previous month's episode, please go check that out, where we talked about all things Sean Connery. And look forward, guys. In July, we will be doing Roger Moore as he's the next Bond. He has the most Bond films out of any actor, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe.
Yes. No, Roger Moore does indeed.
He does. So it's going to be, whereas this was the shortest episode, that might be the longest episode of the series. Who knows? And remember, this is a 6 month, 6-part series. We're only on part 2. And this is all leading up to October, where it is the 60th anniversary of Dr. No. And be sure you can keep up with us at Twitter for Take 3 Video on Twitter. Subscribe to us here and join our Facebook page. We do a lot of fun stuff over there. Malcolm runs a bunch of polls. You can also, you will get updates on there about this series and when episodes are coming out, or I don't know, whatever weird and crazy things we'd like to come up with. So with all that having been said, I'm Matt.
I'm Manning.
And that was something.